Hello and welcome to another episode of the Nick Rodriguez podcast. I'm here joined with my good friend Charles Hagan, and today we're going to talk about the biggest MLB free agent signings, and we're going to talk about to see if that makes them a World Series contender. Are they still a pretender? And we're going to get into some of the the signings. Trey Turner, Dansby Swanson, Justin Verlander, some of these big signings. But before we get into that, Charles, welcome to the show. I know it's been a little while. We were talking about your Phils the last time. We hopped on here, but how you doing, man? What's going on?
My man, it's always a pleasure to be on. Thank you very much for having me, Nick. Yeah, I think to tie a bow on that, what a run for the Philadelphia Phillies, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciated you giving me my flowers by being able to talk about it on your podcast. So many memorable experiences throughout that entire run. I mean, nobody thought Phillies were making all the way to the World Series. To go 6 games was awesome. And I'm excited to talk about the signings they've made and see how it can go in the future.
Absolutely. NL East is probably the best division in baseball. I think you could argue with the Mets, the moves they've made, the Braves, obviously the recent run in the Philadelphia Phillies. But let's go ahead and jump into these teams and get into their signings. We're going to start with the National League. Let's go ahead and start with the Chicago Cubs. A huge signing. They signed Dansby Swanson, ends up being for 7 years, $177 million. Why don't you get us started here about, are you surprised that Dansby ended up leaving the Braves, and what does this mean for Chicago this season?
So I remember right when the Braves season ended, the big question was Dansby Swanson. And are you guys going to resign? He's a lifelong Brave. I knew he'd get a lot of interest, but just as we were alluding to pre-show, I've always kind of counted him as the 4th best available shortstop this free agency. No, not to discredit Dansby. I think he's fantastic. I just think this shortstop class was loaded. I think it goes Trey, Correa, Bogarts, and then Dansby. I think Dansby and Bogarts are tight there in that combo there. But I think that Dansby wanted to switch up something. He got a ton of money. To put in perspective, he's making more annually than Bryce Harper is, which is just
Wow.
Do you think Dansby Swan? I know, dude. It's nuts because the $13.3 to $30 million deal spread out for over so many. This 7 years, 177. I know that he's from Chicago area. Grew up as a Cubs fan. His family wanted to go to Chicago, so I think some of that makes sense. He won his ring. He was a loyal guy to the Braves, and I think that he earned his bag. So I'm happy for him. But obviously this is your boy, so I want to hear about you.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, he's actually from Atlanta. He's from from the Marietta area. Yeah, but his wife, Mal Pugh, she's like a professional soccer player in Chicago. So I think that was the big tie to Chicago and everything. Everybody loves Dansby. I mean, it's very similar to the Freddie Freeman situation where beloved, even though Freddie is from LA, he grew up in the Braves organization. Obviously, Dansby won a World Series with us. I think at some point, though, defensively, I think he's one of the best shortstops in the league.
Yeah.
Offensively, his bat can be a little inconsistent. Last 2 years, he's been phenomenal. He's been a great leader in the clubhouse and everything like that. I'm happy for him. I did not want to see him go to LA. That would have been a worst case scenario to see Freddie and him over in LA. But happy for him to be the Cubs. I don't know how much of a contender the Cubs actually are with Dansby, and I know the Braves weren't going to pay that. But happy for him, and it's Vaughn Grisham time now for the Braves.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Also, that would have been brutal if LA. How can LA just take all of these guys? I don't know how they pay everybody. And this is coming from the Phillies, who are like about to enter like the 4th highest payroll. But I just can't believe the Dodgers pay these big guys like this. But I think let's get into that. Let's talk about what the addition of Dansby is for the Cubs, and let's talk about what the departure means for the Braves. I think with the Cubs, I think that this is a team that was in a complete rebuild. 2016 golden age for the Cubs, just on a downward slope ever since then. The latest departures with Schwarber and Chris Bryant and Contreras, like all these guys who we'll talk about later as well, were the key components of that World Series team. I don't know if there's anybody left on that team that is a World Series member, but I think that this is the start of their rebuild. I mean, Dansby Swanson's only 28 years old, so I'm wondering what other pieces that they can grab, maybe not this year, next year. And I think that they could compete for, I don't think playoffs this year, probably 3rd in the Central, third or fourth in the Central, I imagine, this year. But this is a little bit of a longer term play for Dansby.
I think so too. I mean, and like we said, he's going to be a face of the franchise kind of guy. He's going to be the one that, he's going to represent your franchise well, iconic team. They're still in a rebuild phase, but this is big for them. He could be their key leadoff guy or bottom of the order guy for a long time, and he's only 28, so he should be great for them. As far as the Braves go, I know a lot of Braves fans are disappointed in our GM, which I don't know how you. I mean, AA was never going to pay this much for Dansby. I think it's a little bit of an overpay for him. And like I said, he's
for sure.
He's great defensively. His bat is a little inconsistent, and he was clearly the fourth best shortstop in this league. That's not me being a salty Braves fan. But I think that, and I would have loved to have him back, but not for this much and for this long. But I think now, if you look at the Braves, who we have Orlando Arcia, who's a decent player, obviously not on a top caliber player. I think if you look at the whole of the Braves, you just got to look at the leadership positions. Vaughn Grisham is one of the younger players in the baseball, and he is going to be very good. It's just, when is he going to mature to be a top tier shortstop? Is he going to be a top tier shortstop? So Ozzie being healthy, the rest of the Braves are locked up for a long time. So I think, it's going to be Vaughn at shortstop, most likely, probably Arcia, coming in every once in a while as well. But I'm excited to see Vaughn Grisham, super, super young team with, Michael Harris at center field and everything like that. But I think it was time for Dansby to go, and we'll see what Grisham can do.
Yeah, I mean, the Braves are loaded, right? We talk about this all the time. They are so smart with how they spend money. Yes. They were never going to spend $25.3 million a year on Dansby. That is a stupid amount of money.
That's a lot of money.
So I don't think that was ever happening there. No. I think this is the hit. Anytime you leave, but I thought that the Braves were going to be a lot worse last year, losing Freddie, and then they end up being better. So who knows what's going to happen? Maybe some young prospect comes out of nowhere, similar to different piece coming in for the Braves. So I think Braves are going to be just fine. Does it impact them a few wins? I think yes.
I think so too, especially early on. Grisham has to get it going, but then I think later on, with a healthier Ozzie Albies and Acuna, you should be able to bounce back and hopefully win another NL East title.
We'll talk.
Let's move on to another National League team, not in the NL East, of course. Let's go to the San Francisco Giants. They lock up not Aaron Judge, but Carlos Correa, who signs for 13 years, $350 million. I know we'll talk about your guy, Trey Turner, in a little bit. I'm not the biggest fan of double-digit, when it comes to 10, 11, 12-year contracts. I think that's just such a huge commitment, and I don't know if we've seen a lot of success in those deals. Maybe we're seeing a new age with a lot of these younger guys, but initial thoughts with Correa becoming a San Francisco Giant.
You know what? I never thought Minnesota was a fit for Carlos Correa. Just did not make any sense to me. Minnesota's no flash. He went from the Astros, his celebration he hit in the playoffs with his watch. It's time. It's go time, Correa time, whatever it is. Yeah. I think San Francisco is actually a really good fit for him. Do I think he's going to be playing this entire 13 years of his contract? Absolutely not.
That's a long time.
But I think that these deals for these elite talents kind of have to be made now. Now, you can credit whoever you want. You can credit Bryce Harper for these. You can credit Manny Machado for these getting signed in the same offseason with this. But I think that for the next 8 years, this will be a really good contract for the Giants because they got their shortstop. He's an elite shortstop. No matter what numbers you look at, Carlos Correa is the top 5 shortstop in the league. They're locking theirs down. I also think this is an overpay. Talking about another overpay. I think that this benchmark of Bryce Harper, I'm sorry for my homer mentality, but Bryce signed for 13 years, $330 million. And are these players better or worse than Bryce Harper? I don't think Carlos Correa is close. I know they're playing different positions. I know it's a different need, but I'm just thinking about that AAV that these guys are getting. I think that, I don't know if the market's just changed in general. I think this is the overpay, but I think something they had to do to get their guy.
it probably is a bit of an overpay, but Correa is a sensational player. What would you say?
Of
Top
course.
10 player in baseball. I mean, he's very, very
Probably
good.
top 20. I don't
Top
know if
20.
top 20. I would give top 20 without further thought, and then
Okay.
I'd have to think about top 15.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, either way, he's so good. I mean, I think the crazier thing too is like you're right with the Twins. I thought he was going to be in Houston longer than he ended up being. Obviously,
Yeah.
he leaves Houston, he goes and gets his money in Minnesota for a year, and then he goes to San Francisco for 13 years. Did you think like let's talk about Aaron Judge real quick because it came out by John Heyman that the Giants the Giants got Aaron Judge and everything like that, and that was crazy. And then of course a couple of days later, he ends up going with the Yankees. Like, what do you think is better for Giants? Like, should they be happier with Correa or Judge? Like, what do you think?
I'm utterly shocked. Like even before, let's disregard this John Heyman announcement, which also I've seen him make several mistakes. He doesn't know how to spell anybody's name. He has made like several of these announcements before. I know journalism and reporting stuff because you want to be the first one announcing that. If you have the biggest or second biggest name in baseball, let's go with biggest. Aaron Judge is probably the biggest name in baseball.
He's probably the biggest right now.
You cannot screw this announcement up. You cannot shoot like
you have to quadruple check that this is right.
My goodness gracious. But I think that was such a blow for San Francisco. I thought they had it in the bag. I mean, I saw stories of Aaron Judge there the entire week.
Yeah,
he went to 49ers games. He went to a Golden State Warriors game. And I'm just like, Yankees fans are in shambles right now. I'm like, there's no way he signs. And he signs, obviously, a massive contract, but one that I thought he was going to get more years. I know he's older, but I thought that Aaron Judge was going to get a 10-year deal.
Yeah, close. I mean, and we'll talk to him and just to talk about him in just a minute. He gets 9 years, and I guess he wants to 9 years, $360 million is what Aaron Judge ends up getting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's cool that the Giants get a big name player. They miss out on Judge, but they get Correa. He's a big name player. People are making the Judge Barry Bonds comparisons. Both big, big guys in tanks over in San Francisco. But we can move on to Aaron Judge since we're already talking about him. But
actually, can I have one last point for Correa right here?
Yeah.
I think that you made a good point that the Giants missed out on Aaron Judge, biggest name in free agency, but got still a top 10 free agent right now. So I don't know probably top 5 free agent. Like, I think of the Knicks in NBA free agency. Do you remember the free agency where KD and Kyrie were both rumored to go to the Knicks early on?
Yep.
And then they miss out on both.
Yep.
And then their consolation prize is Julius Randle.
Yep.
This is not that deal. This is like if the Knicks were to miss out on KD and they sign like Kyrie. It's kind of like
they still get one of them.
Equivalent. They got one of them. They got one of them. They didn't miss out on both.
Yeah, I mean, you could make an argument for either one on who's going to be more sustainable over the 9 or 13-year contract. Those are super long. I almost like the 9-year better just because it feels a little bit more safe than 13 years. But to your point, does he really stay for all those 13 years? Does he stay like for 8 or 9 and then he gets out of it? Who knows? Yeah. But big move either way. It seemed like the Giants were going to make a big signing either way, and obviously they ended up getting Correa.
For sure.
Well, we're already talking about Judge, so we can go ahead and hit on him. Similar to you, I thought the Yankees were going to be out of it. I mean, not when it came towards the end, because it seemed like the Giants were all in. They were going to get him. They were going to lock him up. He was going to be the new right fielder for the San Francisco Giants. But the Yankees ended up re-signing him. If you're Aaron Judge, I'll phrase it to you like this. If you're Aaron Judge, which way do you end up going? Do you go back to New York, or do you end up signing somewhere else like San Francisco?
Oh, if I'm Aaron Judge, I would go to San Francisco. I felt like the Yankees fans, I felt like failed them in the playoffs.
Yes.
I felt like the Yankees I think Yankees have been a mess of an organization the last 2 or 3 years. And I'm not necessarily a Yankees hater. I don't root for their success, but I just think that there's no reason why they shouldn't be competing for a title every year. And they started off so hot, best team in baseball, and then you sizzle out like you do, and then you re-sign to that team. I don't know. I felt like it was a natural time for a new beginning for him. Now, with that being said, the Yankees probably promised some big free agency signings, and they signed Carlos shortly after, the best lefty starting pitcher on the market. I mean, that was a gigantic signing. Now, with this being said, I think they're still topping out at ALC champion, like ALCS. I don't know, man. I just don't think Yankees have the right leader at the helm. I think they have good regular season success, and I just don't think they have any dogs. I don't think they have any dogs in them.
No, I don't think so either. I think after being booed after like the iconic historical season that Judge had, I would have considered leaving. I don't know if I would definitely leave New York and playing a little bit better weather in San Francisco and another iconic franchise. So I think I would end up leaving and going to the Giants. But yeah, I don't know. I got to see it to believe it. I think Houston's running that division right, or running the American League right now. So until someone knocks them off, it's got to be the Astros to me.
And they just got better again. How do they keep doing this? This is a dynasty to watch. Definitely. We had talked about this. I mean, I want to give credit to the Houston Astros. I mean, they were always a better team than the Phillies here, but we've kind of, I think it's been enough time that they have gotten enough crap thrown at them for this cheating scandal, and they have proved that they have had immense success after this scandal. I thought that they were going to be in shambles following this. They got even better, honestly, and it's scary. They're a scary team.
That's without Carlos Correa, who was a key piece. You have Jordan Alvarez, who's a stud in outfield. So they're a force to be reckoned with, and they're not going anywhere for a long time. Of course, now you have Jeremy Pena over at shortstop, and Altuve and Tucker. Like, their team is loaded. They're fun to watch, honestly. Like, to me, like we said this before, of like with the scandal, I'm over it. It's been a few years. They're still dominant. They're still really good, and they play well in the playoffs. So yeah, until you beat them, you can't really hate on them too much.
Well, that's my exact thing. If the Phillies are World Series champions right now, I'm talking a bunch of crap about the Astros. But they are not. Astros look fantastic. Their starting pitching is elite. I know we're supposed to be talking about the Yankees right now. I guess we should make a transition into the Astros following this. But my long story short is that Aaron Judge has been on the Yankees. He's had one of the greatest seasons of all time. And he had to pull this team out of the gutter, and sometimes it just was not enough. So what is it going to take? Does he emulate this performance ever again? I think he could have a similar number in one of these categories. I don't see him hitting 62 home runs again, probably, or however he finished with. I mean, he could hit for average. He's going to hit over 120 RBIs. I don't know, man. I just don't see it happening for the Yankees.
I mean, for him to be able to do that would be incredible. The fact that it's only happened once before, and I think it was Roger Maris's record that he ended up breaking. That would be insane if he did it again. But I don't know. We can see them tied together again. They don't have a Derek Jeter, Posada type of guys in their locker room right now. So we'll see if they can, pull something together. But did you want to talk about?
They should make Judge captain, by the way. They should make Judge the first Yankees captain since Jeter for re-signing.
Yes. I mean, if there's going to be a guy, it would be him. It would have to be him. It's not going to be Stanton. Yep. It's going to be him.
Agreed. I think if we're ready for the Astros, I think we move right into them.
Yeah, go ahead. What are your thoughts on what they've done so far?
Yeah, I mean, they got better. They literally got better. Like, I know they lose Justin Verlander. Justin Verlander gave them sensational seasons. Yes. But their starting pitching depth is extreme. Like, they had 4 number 1 starters, is what it felt like for the first 4 games of the World Series, but their entire playoff rotation. I don't know, man. I think that this is a team to be reckoned with. They signed Jose Abreu. He was a 2020 AL MVP. I know that was a shortened season, but he's had a ton of success. And to add another bat to that lineup, I mean, the rich just gets richer, man.
Exactly. I mean, your 2020 MVP, it's a 3-year deal. I mean, like you said, I know they were talking about Rizzo for a little while. They were gonna find another bat, and that's a scary lineup to face. I mean, how are you gonna beat that in a series when you have to go through that whole repertoire? And it's not like they're young. They've been through it. They just won a championship. So that's gonna be a tough team to bounce now that you've added Abreu.
Yeah. I mean, this team I did not feel like needed an extra bat. And they go out here and they have an elite bat. He has been in the top 20 MVP voting every year except for one since 2015. So that's just consistent talent that the Astros are getting. I know he's a little older. He's 34, but I mean, he's got plenty in the tank. I don't see him slowing down.
And that was on an up and down White Sox team. This is going to be on a team where he can hide pretty well. He's going to be protected really well, and he's going to be able to rake some home runs. So Houston is going to be fun to watch as usual. But let's get into an NL East team. You mentioned Justin Verlander just now. He signs with our division rival, New York Mets. How big is this, for the Mets? They've made other moves as well, but this has got to be one of the biggest ones in the offseason, not just for the Mets, but overall landing Verlander.
Okay. Obviously gigantic, right? This is
Yep.
Justin Verlander. He had a monster of a season, multi-Cy Young guy.
He's so good.
Let me ask you, when does his age catch up to him? Because we saw it previously. He had Tommy John. He came back, and he's been elite. But is this one of those signings that you signed for gigantic money that he starts declining? And you trade Verlander for DeGrom here. Verlander has been healthy last 2 years. DeGrom's been so-so. But DeGrom's the best pitcher in baseball when healthy. So pitching this out kind of feels like an even swap to me, at least for this 2-year deal. That's how I feel. I'm not sure how you feel about it.
Verlander, I mean, I don't know. I feel more. I mean, DeGrom is sensational. He does have the injury concern. Verlander, he's had that too in his career. And Verlander is older than I thought he was. He's 39. His birthday is in February, so he'll be 40 by the time the season starts. So, but he's still nasty, and I do not want to see him in a divisional race when it comes down to the end of the end of September, or I don't want to see him in the playoffs because he's done it before. He's nasty. And he gives a Mets team a team that's dying, not only for a division title and all these other things. He gives them a piece, even though he's old or getting older. I mean, he's a guy that you can't count out. I mean, I can't. It's like the Brady effect. Can you really say it's going to happen until it happens? I mean, I don't think so. So Verlander to the Mets. Wish he was somewhere else, but I think he's gonna be nasty. And it'll be fun to watch. Like DeGrom was fun to watch on the Mets and everything like that, but he'll be fun until he's playing the Braves and for the Phillies.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I think that I'm discrediting this a little bit more just because he's on the Mets. The Mets have
I know what you mean by that, though. They do.
What I'm saying?
They got a cloud.
It's just so of course, Mets won over 100 games last year. They have the second highest payroll in baseball.
Yep.
And Justin Verlander probably has the best year of his career last year.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that won Cy Young and MVP in the same year when he was with the Tigers in 2011. And I think he had a better year. He had a 1.75 ERA and pitched like 225 innings or something like that. So I am discrediting this a little bit just because he signed with the Mets.
Yep.
If you tell me he signs with the Giants, I'm like, oh boy, this Giants team is going to win over 100 games this year. But I like that if this wasn't our rival team, I would be saying I like that they got the Scherzer Verlander combination back for the Tigers. Is it too little, too late? Maybe. But I think we'll have to see. There's a gigantic money on this. I mean, $43 million a year for 2 years. That's crazy.
You sent me a text a couple weeks ago of like money spent that the Braves have spent on like a bunch, like several players, and then money the Mets have spent on just like a couple of players. The Mets are going all in. I mean, that's what New York does. Where it's the Yankees, where it's the Mets, the Knicks, whatever. They go all in and trying to win a championship. I don't see them as a championship team right now. Maybe I'm, they do they have the bug that the Yankees do? Like, can they get to the NLCS and then they get beat by somebody else? I don't know. The National League is interesting to me because there's not like one dominant team. There's a lot of really, really good teams. And the American League has got Houston. That's what it feels like. Everyone takes their shot at Houston. Some of us can beat them. Some of us can't. But I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, I love Verlander. Verlander is one of my favorite pitchers the last 10 years. Hall of Famer to me easily. And, hopefully when he's not playing the Braves and your Phillies, he's still cranking it out. I don't know. He's fun to watch.
Yeah. And that's after we talk about the Phillies edition afterwards. I would like to rank these three teams: Phillies,
Yes.
Mets, Braves.
Yes.
I want to hear what you honestly think afterwards, because I'm still making up my mind.
Yeah.
But I think and Mets have made other acquisitions as well. I'm sorry. What's the name that's coming in?
Let me look it up real quick. I can find it.
My Apple Watch is trying to tell me who they signed.
Oh, Kodai Senga?
Kodai, yeah. So Senga, he was supposed to get a massive contract, signs for a nice deal. Yep. That's a splash deal for that pitcher.
Yep.
He's coming over from Japan.
Yep.
I'm interested to see how he affects. He could have an Ohtani type effect.
That would be crazy.
I've been told. So I'm talking about, if you're talking about what additions bigger, we have Verlander here as a headliner, of course, which we would. But to watch out for this guy, because this could be terrifying.
And that's a scary three. They lost Chris Bassett. He goes to the Jays. But, that's a scary three-headed monster that has to make you question the Mets in the playoffs. Be fearful of them in the playoffs because of that great pitching. But, again, there is that Mets cloud. Can they do it? We've seen the Braves and the Phillies do it the last couple of years, making that run to the World Series. But we'll see if the Mets can put it together. They're putting all their chips in, and they're definitely vying for it. It's going to be a three-team race for that NL East crown.
They certainly are. Do we want to transition to the Phillies next then?
Let's do Phillies, and then we can do that power ranking.
Okay. So Philadelphia Phillies, I think that they needed this desperately. Signing Trey Turner, 11 years, $300 million deal.
Yep.
In my opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, is Trey Turner the best shortstop in baseball?
I think I still put Correa at one, but it's
without debate, top three, right? We're not even thinking
easily,
about it, top three.
Easily. He's definitely my two. He'd be my two. And then I'd put Bogarts 3 and Dansby probably 4.
What a consistent baseball player this guy is. If you're looking at his statistics, just a guy that hits for average, he steals bases, he's a great defender. I think there's a lot of this that just makes sense for the Phillies. We talk about these double-digit years, right?
Yep.
Phillies, I think for elite talent, that this is what the market is now in terms of longevity of these years. Scott Boras is representing literally everybody, and he wants longer deals for his contracts, which is more guaranteed money for him.
Yep.
So I think Phillies had to throw out this 11-year, $300 million deal. Padres threw him $40 million more, and he chose the Phillies. He highlighted the fact that the fan base was incredibly electric during this playoff run. That gets me juiced up that other teams and players and talent have noticed that, because you go through a magical run like that, and some of the analysts are like, one and done type of thing. Like, this was the magic. But if you go out and you sign an elite talent like Trey Turner, this is gigantic for the Phillies going forward, and he's the difference maker.
He definitely is. In this day, when you build a team, you want to have a great, guy, a great outfielder. You want to have a great shortstop, a great pitching staff. The Phillies are setting themselves up for a long time. You have Harper lined up for a long time. You have Turner now locked up for a long time. I think he fits in tremendously with that team. And, I don't like a lot of long year contracts, but, it's becoming a theme, for a lot of these teams. We'll talk about the Padres. We've talked about the Yankees. We've talked about these other teams who are locking up these stud players for a really long time. And be interested to see where he slides in. Do you think he bats leadoff, or do you think they shove him in kind of like at the bottom of the lineup to have kind of two leadoff hitters? What do you think?
Yeah, so Bryce Harper, obviously just got surgery on his elbow. So he's going to be out probably the first third of the season. Hope to get him back before the All-Star break. So that's something to consider in terms of when we talk about power rankings afterwards.
Yeah, that's big.
But in terms of lineup shaping, Schwarber called Trey, who they were former teammates in the Nationals for a short time.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and he asked him he asked him where he wanted to hit in the order, and Trey said he'll hit 1 through 9. Schwarber, I know for a fact, we've talked about this before, he demands to hit leadoff, which if you're Kyle Schwarber, I guess you can do that. I'd like to see a higher batting average for him to demand hitting leadoff. But I am seeing a 1 Schwarber, 2 Trey, and this is when everybody's healthy. 1
Okay.
Schwarber, 2 Trey, 3 Bryce, 4 JT for the top
Okay.
4, just to get a left, right,
That's
back to back.
that's pretty dangerous right there.
Yeah.
I know,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Finish your thought.
I was just gonna say, and also we signed Walker from the Mets from a starter pitcher.
Oh, I didn't realize
Yeah.
that.
So yeah, I mean that's a new number 4 for us. I don't know what it is with Phillies loving these ex-Met pitchers with first Wheeler, then we traded for Syndergaard, now Walker.
That's right.
But I think that Walker has a Wheeler type potential in terms of signing with another staff who I think he would be higher in the rotation. Like he was number 5 for the Mets for a little bit, and he was putting up really good numbers, potential all-star there, 4 years, $72 million. I think that's a good addition as well.
Yeah, I think Turner's a great player. I was just going to throw in this little, part with the Braves. And Turner's a more consistent hitter than Dansby, but what they did is because like the Braves, I think where they're great is they have a lot of power and speed. So they would throw Dansby towards the bottom of the lineup. Now last year he played a lot of the leadoff position too, but they would throw home almost 8, 9, 7 range, which gives you another leadoff hitter, which is great when you have the versatility that the Braves do. So I'm curious if they think about doing that with Harper's injury or how they shuffle things around. I don't know. They probably keep him up towards the top of the lineup just because you want to get him on base. He's got that speed, but I don't know. Be interesting to see how they, maybe in spring training they mess around with stuff like that. But I don't know. I'm excited to go against Turner again.
Yeah. He seems like a super traditional number 2 to me. Like, of course, he can bat leadoff, but we're talking about like what a
you
number
can really
2
put him
hitter
anywhere.
is. Yeah, I mean, I would probably bat him 1 through 3. I probably wouldn't bat him lower in the order than that.
That makes sense.
2 is my guess, though.
That makes sense. Did you want to do your power rankings for the NL East?
Yeah, I want to hear yours first. I want to hear with all these additions and these departures in consideration. Talk about NL East. I think is going to be the best division of baseball. Again, I think the talent is enormous. I think Braves, Mets, Phillies are 3 beasts. Potentially the 3 best NL teams, all in the same division. You could debate, and I think that I'd like to hear your perspective of just how the regular season will end. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, and I mean, it's so tough. I mean, just kind of trying to think about where to slot these 3 teams. I think I still put the Braves at number 1 because they are, they've done it for the last several years, winning that division. Yes, losing Dansby is crucial to the leadership. So my prediction would be a Mets or a Phillies jump out to an early lead in the division, May and June, and then the Braves are on the heels, and I think they end up winning that division. Again, I just think they've done it for the last several years. They have that consistency. I think Acuna, Ozzie, you have that pitching staff that's going to be there. I think that makes me less concerned about losing a Dansby Swanson since we played so well losing Freddie. So I still put them at number 1. I'll throw the Phillies in at number 2, but that makes me nervous with the Bryce Harper injury. And then I'll throw in the Mets at 3 just because I need to see it from the Mets. Do we see a regression from the Mets, after being so dominant during the regular season? Yes, they got some new guys in, like a Verlander and Senga, who weren't there last year. Does that change the mojo for them? I am nervous about putting the Phillies there, not talent-wise. They're definitely there talent-wise, but I didn't realize Harper was going to be out that long. But I still feel comfortable going Braves 1, healthy, Phillies 2, and then Mets 3. So maybe by All-Star break, Mets are in first, and they do the classic Mets slide, and then you and I can get out to see who the real champ is. But what do you think?
So if we're talking about Bryce Harper not being injured right now, going this season, and he was fully healthy, I have a very strong confidence that Phillies would take the NL crown this year.
But that's fine. I can totally see that with Turner and
It's just like this lineup and now this pitching staff is now all stacked, and they now have playoff experience. They have veteran presence.
They do.
They also have young guys contributing too. Great manager. Yep. I think I could see number 1 in that circumstance.
I could see
Now
it.
I think Braves will win it again,
Okay.
considering that
Nice.
Bryce got at least 60 games.
Yeah, that's huge.
I think that at the end of the day, all three make the playoffs. I think
Yep.
if we're going second halves only, I think Phillies would have the best record, then Braves two, Mets
That's
third.
Yeah, okay.
I 100% think Mets get off to a fast start again.
They
and
do
I
that.
think Braves
They've done that the last 3 years.
consistent, good. And I think that Phillies will have more of an ebbs and flows first half. Some parts dominance, like maybe 10-game winning streaks.
Yep.
And then like 7-game losing streaks. And I think that'll happen until Bryce is back. And then I think that they'll secure like a 94 to 95 win season. I think Braves win like 102. And I think Mets could go anywhere from 88 to 96. I think like an 8-point
They got that range, yeah. I think they're so interesting to me, the Mets. And this is why I love baseball, because you play 162 games, sometimes 163. It's going to come down to the end again, and it's going to be awesome. And, you know, the Braves won the division last year, but it didn't really help us all that much because we ended up playing the hottest team in baseball, arguably. You could argue the Houston Astros too, and got beat bad. And y'all made, you know, your trip. So, and the year before, the Braves do the same thing. So I think it's so fun having these teams battle it out. You know, I don't like the Phillies, I don't like the Mets, but I love playing them. It's not like playing the Marlins or the Nationals where, you know, you don't get that fire, right? Although Sandy Alcantara is a monster. I could make an argument he's the best pitcher in baseball because he's so nasty. But
of course,
but that's
he has no idea how to beat the Phillies, but he's great.
right.
I think he was 0 for 3 against the Phillies last year, which I thought was the funniest thing because the Phillies are traditionally last 4 years awful against the Marlins.
Same with the Braves. We can't beat the Marlins. Yeah, I know.
But they could beat their ace every single time. It was unbelievable.
He was so good.
So that's actually one of my points I wanted to make to you. For the same reason why I don't like the Mets going this year is the same reason I don't like the Yankees going this year. They get
very
tired
similar
in the regular season. I think they do so well.
Yep.
I could see the exact same thing. One of my best friends, Johnny, is a Mets fan. And he was just like, why shouldn't the Mets have sat their starters the last 10 games and go into a wild card spot instead of everyone being tired going to the postseason? Whereas the Phillies, who were playing until the end, have like this fun energy about them because they squeaked in and then they made it in, but they had top tier talent. Why is that not a better route than winning 102 games and cooling off near the end? And with this new playoff structure, you could argue that is the better route by having the momentum. It's always momentum, but especially
it's always momentum. You have to be the hottest team. I mean, you just have to. I mean, you can't. I don't know if sending your guys is the best way, but like when it comes to like the Phillies, you had to win those games or you're not making the playoffs. You guys were desperate and you fought and you got in and you were playing with your hair on fire and it worked. The Mets, they could take their foot. I mean, they were going to make the playoffs and they were racing the Braves. The Braves racing the Mets just to win a division.
And the Braves win. That is the funniest thing.
I know.
The Mets had it the entire time.
They had it, I think the Braves had it for like, I don't know, less than a week. And then they ended up taking it.
I saw some stat about that.
Which the Braves did the same thing the Mets did. Like just ran out of energy and lose it to you guys.
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting. I don't know if MLB would change anything like that because I think that they saw tremendous success in terms of viewership because it was so exciting with baseball. But that's interesting. Man, this is a topic for another day. But maybe I'll preface this now. I know this is a little off topic, but this is what we can do in our podcast because we knew what we want. Is 162 games too much?
Yes.
But what would you shorten it to, and how does that impact legacies for players and statistics in a season, and how would you make that tradition, like that transition, excuse me?
I don't know if it happens, but what if it was more, I've seen this thrown out there, and I'm a traditionalist when it comes to baseball. I love it. It's my favorite sport. I think it's October baseball is nothing like it. But what if it was more like an 88-game season? I mean, is that too long still? I mean, is that too long? I mean, you're taking out a good chunk of the season. 60 was way too short.
I felt like the way that I can...
No, 60 is not enough.
60 was so short, and I felt
100.
like... So what I thought of initially was like a 132, less than 30 games.
Okay.
You get
Okay.
rid of an entire calendar month, and you get more rest for these individuals between road trips. So
That's
instead
not
of
bad.
playing
That's not
every
bad.
single night, you get to have, just an extra day per series.
That's not bad. I mean, I think the great thing about baseball is that it lasts so long. To me, it's like, hockey is long and basketball is long, but it's like it starts from really the 1st of April and it goes
Early
all the
March.
way to October. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And you got spring training coming up already in a couple of months. So I love it. I mean, it's a lot of baseball to go to, but I like that idea. Shave it off a little. I think that's more
So
reasonable than cutting off a huge chunk like
yeah,
I'm suggesting.
sorry, I misspoke. I meant end of March is what I meant for because they start on like the 28th this year, I think, for opening day. But
Yeah, yeah.
I think
I
so.
got
I'm
you.
a traditionalist too, but I was at a point where there was 30 games left, and I was like, oh my gosh,
I
how are these
know.
players playing all these games?
So much.
And I think we can keep that the time periods that it's in between that late March, early April through October,
Yep.
just by giving them those rest days instead of those 30 games. Because my only issue would be if I knew they were getting more rest, I think it's great. If it's the same seasons, that's great. If I can still go to a baseball game in July, fantastic.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think my issue would just be statistics. And how do we compare people anymore? Like, that's my slight issue with the 17 game NFL season. It doesn't change it astronomically, but you have people that weren't having 1,000-yard rushing years
That are
that
now.
maybe top out at 910 that get through 1,000. Now they have a 1,000-yard rushing year.
That's a great point. I think we're already seeing that with the NFL, with NBA, with the MLB, with inflation in scoring and in numbers and stuff. So I think
Yeah.
maybe it's more aware to some people. But I mean, you're totally right though. Like in 10 years, when you talk about Hall of Fame credentials for certain players, there's got to be some sort of discussion and
Standard.
guidelines and standards. Because like if you go to basketball or you go to football, hey, this guy threw for 50,000 yards. Like when Elway was playing, it's like a different era. Now I know this is NFL, but like to me it's similar with home runs and strikeouts. And if you limit the games, how does that affect things and stuff? That's a good point.
100%. Think about the free shift when we're watching from 10 to 15 years old. Think
Yep.
about like Ryan Howard, David Ortiz type, Prince Fielder type hitters.
Love Fielder.
Do any of those hitters truly exist right now? Like when I'm thinking about those pure power, when I think of like power hitters right now,
Fielder for sure. Howard for sure. Who are the three? Fielder, Howard, and
Fielder, Howard, and Ortiz were like.
Oh
of
yeah,
course
I still think they do.
But do you, like today in baseball, who's the
Are they the
equivalent
same?
guy? Is my question. Not like
Yeah, no.
like we have power hitters. I could pick out any three from any 10-year stretch up until about 2010, where I'm
Yep.
just like these guys were just power hitters that were elite and could hit the ball 500 feet to right.
Yeah, yeah. I know. It's weird. It's like everything with like the analytics movement, where it's not as much, homers. It's different. It's a different kind of baseball. It's a different NFL. It's a different NBA, but still love it. And it's just a little bit different, but
Yeah.
still awesome.
Good discussion on that. What teams do we have remaining?
Oh well, we can let's jump into the Padres. We can talk about a few more, maybe table a few others for later discussion. We talked about how the Mets are one of my most interesting teams this offseason and really at all times just because of the Mets. But the Padres are another one of those teams. They remind me of the Giants in the fact that they were throwing money at everybody. You and I should have gone to San Diego and seen if we could have gotten a couple million because anybody, I know they offer Judge, they offer Turner. I think there's other guys. I don't know if Correa was in that discussion, but they signed Xander Bogaerts for 11 years, $280 million. I think defensively he's lacking, but offensively he's a unit. Very, very, very good offensive player. And, I want to hear your thoughts, and then we can get into the whole Tatis lineup and Machado stuff.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe we end on this Padres one, and I'll give you my trivia, and then we'll call it a pod
Perfect.
for this one.
Yep.
I think that this is a super interesting signing.
Yeah.
Bogaerts was connected to a lot of different teams. I mean, Padres have studs right now. They have Soto,
Everywhere.
Tatis, Bogaerts, just to name
Machado.
Talk about, oh my gosh, Machado. Talk about a big four. I can't believe I just left out Machado in that. And I like Machado
I know.
best out of all four of those.
Yeah, he's
Talk
so
about
good.
a big four. If you're talking about four best players, and we didn't even talk about Yu Darvish. I mean, these guys just talk
Shit,
about talent. This is like you would think this is Los Angeles in terms of the talent this team possesses.
Yep.
Padres on paper should light it up, right?
Yes.
I have a massive question mark about Tatis. And I think that he's going to struggle for batting average. I think he might still hit 35 homers and 75 RBIs, but I think his fielding is just still bad. Like, that was really rough. I think, I mean, he's probably going to play center now, and I saw how many routine fly balls he missed. But I could see him having like a 230 average this year. I don't know, man. I think there's a team, high expectations, that I think will not live up to what they could do this year.
Yeah, this is why they're different to me than the Phillies, because you mentioned this before about how they have spent a lot of money, like the Phillies have spent a lot of money, Castellanos and Schwarber, and all these guys, but those guys seem like Philly guys and they really fit in. There's a different kind of culture in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
San Diego, I don't know. Does it feel like they're just throwing money at guys and hoping that they just sign? I don't know how much of these they're all super talented. It's almost an all-star team, but how much do they fit and like each other? Like, especially with Tatis, like, I guess his suspension's up, so he'll be playing, but I don't know. And I've seen like left field, outfield, like he's not going to play shortstop. That's going to be Bogarts. I guess Machado is at third, who can also play shortstop, by the way. He's very good. I'm curious about the fit. Soto, we know is going to rake, but I don't know. Like, does this team it's World Series or bust? It's got to be. So I still think they come in second. Am I crazy in the West? In the West behind the Dodgers because they're proven to keep winning that division. I'm not worried that they didn't get a big name shortstop. I'm talking about the Dodgers, but
you are totally not crazy, and I think you absolutely nailed why a team like the Padres and a team like the Phillies are different. Like,
yes.
I could name that with a few different MLB teams that have a strong culture, and they only bring in guys that really fit and
Braves.
they do well there.
Yeah.
I thought Braves and Phillies immediately. You talk about, and I mean, even Mets, they were throwing big money at people, but I think a lot of these pieces make sense.
I think they make sense.
I think Padres are trying to sign the best talent available, and they're figuring it out later. It's kind of how it seems like to me. So you're right. I don't think Bogart's personality fits with like a Soto, Machado, Tatis.
I don't know.
Yeah. How well do they mesh? I don't know. Big, massive question mark. I mean, Dodgers it's their division to lose 100%.
If you had to bet on a team between the Padres and the Mets to not win the World Series, but just make it to the World Series, who are you putting your money on?
Those are my only two options to make the World Series.
Yeah, between those two.
This following year?
This upcoming season.
I am probably doing Mets.
Agreed.
Mets. I'm doing Mets.
Agreed. It's the pitching. Agreed.
It's the pitching. It is. I feel like they talk about a team with a pretty strong culture. They have a fairly strong culture.
And they've been knocking on the door more than the Padres have the last couple of years.
They have.
Padres missed the playoffs. I mean, Mets have been around.
Dude, I can see Padres overpaying like this and then having a 500 year.
That would be a massive disaster. I mean, what do you do?
And then you start shipping people off all over. What's Tatis's contract right now?
I don't know, but I know Machado is already going to be a free agent in 2020.
Oh, he's out, dude. I think he's out, and that'll be super interesting next year to see. I know we're always talking about in the future, but Machado is such a stud, and he's proved it so much.
Yeah,
that'd be interesting.
To the Braves. Call it here first. Yeah. Machado to
the Braves. Nick, before we continue, where we close out this pod here, I have a trivia question for you. So it's unrelated. NFL, we got the Packers that are about to start playing in about 15 minutes here. Your team, I have a Packers trivia question for you. But first, I'll ask you, what do you think of the game tonight? What do you think? Packers -7.5. Do you think they get it done?
Ooh. I think we win, but I don't think we cover. I think we win by a touchdown. So not quite the 7.5. I think Baker.
Are you worried about Baker at all? Are you worried about Baker at all this game? The positive momentum he just had from last game, maybe a little spark?
Got to be a little bit. I mean, we have this much to play for. Is there a chance we make the playoffs? Yes. We need luck to bounce our way, and things like that. But Baker's a good. He's a good to me. He's a good player. He can be really when he's hot. He's hot. When he's not, he's not. But I think McVay's a great play caller. I think it'll be interesting and tight. I think it'll be a fun one. I think Green Bay pulls away at the end and win by a touchdown. So we just cover 27-20.
I think that this is a game that surprisingly Rams are up by, I'm going to say 4 points or 2 points, 2 or 4.
Ooh.
And Aaron Rodgers gets the ball back, 1 minute and 13 seconds left.
Ooh.
Traditional Aaron Rodgers drive. Packers win just at the buzzer here.
Ooh.
But I think it's really close. Like I think it's
it.
like a 24-22 game is what I'm seeing.
I like it. I can see that.
It's also freezing, so Packers do great in these games.
Yeah.
And to lead to my trivia question, do you
go.
know who the Packers' all-time leading receiver in receiving yards is?
Okay.
And can you tell me how many after you give the name?
I definitely don't know the yards. I'm going to throw out some names. So guys are coming to my head, like a Sterling Shepard's coming to my head right away. Like a Donald Driver would come to my head, but I don't think he's number one. But I know he's up there. Greg Jennings is not going to be up there. I would say it's between those two.
Clock is ticking for the name.
All right, let me just do Driver. Give me Donald Driver.
Donald Driver, you nailed it. Do you know how many yards?
Oh, God.
I'll accept a rough estimate. If it's within 500, I'll give it to you.
God, he was there for so – I don't even know what's a good guess.
I am massively putting you on the spot here.
Let's do 15,000.
10,137. Tons of yards. I mean, that's 10 straight seasons of 1,000 yards.
He was so good. Like just
he
such
was.
a beast. Such a beast. But
yeah. Well, best of luck to your Packers. That's my prediction for tonight. So if that does happen, we're gonna have to get this pod out immediately to let it know that I called this before. So we'll see.
Absolutely, and we'll jump on here hopefully sooner than we have the last time. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the MLB free agent signings. There's probably a few other names to drop, but we talked about the biggest ones so far. So let us know what you guys think and enjoy the game.
Yeah, thank you very much. See you, brother.